I got to turn this on.
Creo que tengo que prender esto.
Yeah, what? No. She bought these for you. Oh, thank you. That was nice.
I know. I'm like, it was my birthday yesterday.
And I love dark chocolate. You know
Same.
how I feel like as you get older, you transition from the
Did
milk
you like-
chocolate
yeah.
to dark chocolate.
It's just too sweet. I
It's
prefer
too
dark
sweet,
chocolate.
yeah.
If I don't eat out.
All right. All right, everyone. We have quorum, so if you could take your seats. Where's all those? Are you sure? I mean, we're sure we have quorum?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, perfect. All right, good afternoon. I'll call the June 5th Shoreline Preservation Working Group to order at 11:20. Oh, my clock says 11:28.
Oh.
Are we early?
a
Okay.
minute.
Are we allowed to do that or should we just wait a few
We're
minutes?
left.
Okay. All right, then I will ask our interpreters to explain how to access our interpretation.
Thank you.
Morning.
Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are, click on the interpretation icon, which is a world, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, or tablet, please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish below in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte de las intérpretes. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen los controles, haga clic en el icono de interpretación que es un globo terráqueo y seleccione español o Spanish. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil del Zoom desde su celular o su tableta, presione los puntos suspensivos y luego interpretación y luego su
That's
idioma.
after-
Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, que es silenciar el audio original. También contamos con auriculares disponibles para servicio de interpretación. Si usted se encuentra en la sala de la reunión, favor de pedir los auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay-Digueño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Kuya. This land has nourished, healed, and protected and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. And now, if you will all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Clerk Michael Garcia, can you confirm that we have a quorum?
We have a quorum, Chair.
Very good, thank you. All right, let's move to the non-agenda public comments and member comments. Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We do. We have 3 public non-agenda public comments in person. I'm seeing none online. First up would be Purita Javier, followed by Cesar Javier.
Very good, and we're going to limit the comments today to 2 minutes, and you'll see the timer up on the screen.
Good morning. The city mayor, city council members, city attorneys, city development services department, city planning department, San Diego Police Department, city land use and environment group to whom it may concern. We, the residents of Choya's Parkway, Leia, Streamview, Salta, Boise, Minna, Limona, 51 First Streets, West Bank of Choya's Creek of District 9, certify and report that a home business at 5238 Streamview Drive, ceramics manufacturing and kiln industrial operation has been operating since December 17, 1984 and renewed December 31st, 2024 in our community designated as residential zone. Ceramics kiln industrial activity is known to produce toxicity, polluting the air we breathe and impacting health and safety of residents, especially children and seniors and existing medical condition.
Read the name.
The names are Tu Dang, Hong Dao, Self Williams, Alfredo Noriega, Krell Tran, Tank Dang, Sabrina Y, Nico Lee, Sydney Lee.
Okay, thank you. Cesar Javier, the husband, we have been threatened with this emission from a permanent structure, we call it kiln or oven, a huge oven, constructed, located, operated, approved by the city in a residential zone, single family residential zone community. Violation of the state law, violation of our constitution, SICWA, if I may say that, for decent home and suitable surroundings. We are here consistently. Thank you, SANDAG, because we expect solution on this. We went to the county and for many, many, many months, engaging with the meeting with those lawful authority, they issued this air purifier. Cesar, we give you this one. Do not talk. Do not voice your problem. We give you one. Don't tell to anyone. We give you one. This is not a thinker's solution. We need to uproot the very source of this, and it is the rule Code 11 of the Air Pollution Control District. I think this rule has been since 1979, and it needs some kind of policy change. And they're not, I mean, they're moving very, very slow. And they have this workshop on this exemption of 20 manufacturing industrial activities. We do not know because they're doing it behind the wall. Is this what we call the right procedure? Governance, if I may say it? Please help us, SANDAG. This is a meeting of bright minds. Help us.
Thank you,
Thank
Caesar.
you.
Your time has expired. Next is Julia Chun-Her, followed by John Conover online.
Good morning. I'll try to cut this down to 2 minutes. I'm Julia Chen here. I was a longtime member of this committee from 2011 to 2019 when I worked with the Surfrider Foundation. I also worked on the natural resources damage assessment following the Amplify oil spill in 2021 in Huntington Beach, which affected our beaches as well. And I know that oil drilling has no place in our biologically rich coastline. I'm here to let you know that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, or BOEM, is currently accepting comments on their 11th National Outer Continental Shelf Oil and Gas Leasing Program, which could extend or expand oil drilling near our coast. The entire U.S. Outer Continental Shelf is open for consideration, including areas that are currently protected, such as national marine sanctuaries. Oil spills are an inevitable part of oil drilling. Roughly 880,000 gallons of oil enter our marine environment annually through drilling operations in North America alone. So even if everything goes to plan, drilling means spilling. As you know, our community's economy and quality of life relies heavily on clean beaches, a healthy ocean ecosystem, tourism, and fishing industry. A major spill could have long-term devastating impacts on businesses, families, and livelihoods. As the SANDAG Shoreline Preservation Committee, I'm asking you to take action, either on behalf of this committee or your individual cities. Whether it's a resolution or a comment letter, we're encouraging elected officials to submit comments to BOEM and to reach out to your elected federal officials. The deadline for comments is June 16th, so we do need swift action. And I have emailed staff with a draft letter and draft resolution for your consideration. I have a copy here, and I'll leave my cards for anybody who's interested or has questions. The oil, that's going fast. So I will skip some and say that this is in line with your 2025 legislative priorities and past actions. And thank you for your leadership and commitment to safeguarding our communities and standing up for our environment. It's really critical at this time. Thank you.
Next is
you,
John
Julie.
Conover online, and that's our last public comment on non-agenda.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, great. Yeah, first of all, thanks for all the hard work you guys do down at the Shoreline Working Group. I've been involved with the working group for about 30 years. I've been active in spreading the word about beach sand and educating all the Rotary clubs in North County with the program I have. I founded the Surfrider chapter in San Diego, which was the first of some 77 now nationwide. And I published Tide Lines, Tide Calendars. I'd just like to bring to the group's attention a proposal I have made to purchase a dredger and keep it on the West Coast, state of California. And I know the big holdup is the cost of 150 million, which I was quoted by the project manager for this dredging here in North County for Manson. And if you put that in comparison to the Beach project, the numbers I hear for the entire Oceanside city beaches is the same amount, 150 million. And I know it's changing and everything could change cost-wise, but I would just like to push SANDAG to forward the thoughts of having purchased our own dredger and keeping it on the West Coast and leasing out to various communities for projects all over the coast and especially San Diego County. Thank you.
That concludes our non-agenda public items, Chair.
Very good. Thank you for those. I just wanted to say that about the comment by Julie Chen, I had received an email from Oceana of that same regard, and I think it's too late for our commission to take that up for a resolution, but Courtney has emailed the working group the information as to how they can comment on their own. So thank you for that. All right, let's go to board member comments. Let's go ahead and go around and introduce ourselves. And we did this last time. And maybe this time, if you don't have a comment or you don't want to talk about yourself, let's say something interesting about your city or your organization or whatever. And I'll go ahead and start. My name is Christy Becker. I'm the deputy mayor of Solana Beach. And we have had the Belly Up Tavern serving live music for over 50 years. Go around. All right, we'll go, Mr. Ehlers.
Hi, I'm Bruce Ehlers, mayor of the city of Encinitas, and boy, something interesting about.
There's not much interesting.
Yeah,
I
there's
know.
nothing interesting going on in Encinitas, so we're kind of boring. And I'm joking.
Hi, I'm Amy Stewart, City of Coronado, and we have lots going on in our city. Summer is a big time for us. Of course, the sewage issue is a huge problem for our beaches as everyone's gearing up for summer. So we're continuing to work on the sewage crisis, but we're also excited about our 4th of July celebration, which we are very proud of, and look forward to seeing you all there.
Good morning. My name's Eileen Maher. I'm with the Port of San Diego. I'm in the Environmental Conservation Department. And I would say that the most exciting thing that's happened recently is we did open our 23rd public park down in Sweetwater portion of the Chula Vista Bayfront. So it's a 40-acre natural park. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you go down and stroll through the park. It's very nice.
Hi, I'm Jessica Curran. I'm a marine biologist with Navy Region Southwest. And I think the most exciting thing that I've been involved with lately was in partnership with NOAA was capturing 25 green sea turtles from the bay over this last capture blitz. So.
For that, I wish we had photos. Next time.
Yes.
I'm Darren Smith. I'm representing California State Park, San Diego Coast District. We're kind of a 20% program. We own 20% of the California coast, and we own 20% of California, the San Diego County's beaches also.
Hi, everybody. My name is Reese Allen. I'm the Climate Adaptation Program Manager at Caltrans, District 11, so San Diego and Imperial County. And something interesting is that we recently started a sea level rise feasibility study for State Route 75, looking at the southern portion, so just Silver Strand. And we're about to start the first public engagement portion of that pretty soon. So keep a lookout for the survey.
Thanks, Reese. Mitch Silverstein with Surfrider Foundation, Senior San Diego Policy Coordinator, and Chair Becker. I have a full-on 2-minute comment. So should I just say something interesting and we finish this first and then okay. Yeah. So I think Surfrider, our mission is to protect and enjoy the world's ocean, waves, and beaches for all people through a powerful activist network. It's a mission I'm very proud to be here representing. And I think what's cool about the San Diego chapter, and there's already representation because Julia Chun here held this position for many years and are still, has huge shoes that I'm trying to fill. And then one of our public speakers, John, actually was one of the founders of the San Diego chapter. And the San Diego chapter is so well established that we're the only chapter in the nation that actually has a full-time policy coordinator. So great and honored to be here.
Reinhard Flick. I'm a coastal oceanographer at Scripps and representing Scripps to this committee. In a previous life, I was a state employee and I represented the Department of Boating and Waterways here since about 1986. Also one of the founders of the Center for Coastal Studies at Scripps, so they gave me this t-shirt.
That's super interesting. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Jose Rodriguez, council member from the City of National City. We recently partnered with Trees San Diego to plant 60 trees in the public right-of-way, and we hope to plant another 100 this fall.
Carol Seabury, born and raised in Imperial Beach for over 60-something years. And it's no place I'd rather be. We are finally getting some traction in the sewage problem that we have had for decades. Supposedly, we don't know when the start date for the solution is, but once it starts, it's supposed to be 100 days, and we're very, very excited. So, thank you.
Let me just start by saying that's exciting news. So I know you all have been working hard. So Priyabhat Patel, Mayor Pro Tem in the city of Carlsbad, and I'll just share that we have our concerts in the park starting in the next couple of weeks, which is always a hit for, I know, all of North County. So come check it out.
I'm Deputy Mayor Eric Joyce of Oceanside, and I have got your Saturday plans for you for the next 3 Saturdays. So Pride by the Beach is this Saturday in Oceanside Civic Center. The next Saturday is Filipino American Cultural Festival. These are all-day events. You don't have to just come in the morning. You can stay all day with us. And then the following Saturday is our Juneteenth celebration, which is the longest running Juneteenth celebration in North County. Trust me, you don't want to miss any of these days. You know, we love to have you.
Thank you so much. All right, we have a staff comment. I understand. I think there.
Hi, my name's Ashley. I'm in the Regional Planning Department. I just wanted to share an opportunity to provide some feedback for one of our new projects. So SANDAG has engaged a consultant to help us modernize the governance framework to ensure clear roles and responsibilities, streamlined decision-making process, and improved communication channels between all of our stakeholders. So we're going to have a survey coming out hopefully next week. So we will be sending that out to all of you. So as members of our Shoreline Preservation Working Group, we greatly appreciate your feedback and perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and let's turn it back to Mitch for his comments.
Thanks, Chair Becker. Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly address the group since we have kind of a shoreline preservation group with representatives from all the city and all the big agencies. You know, SANDAG does lots of projects and there's this group, but there's also other projects like what's going on with the low sand rail relocation in Del Mar's rapidly eroding bluffs. And SANDAG has been a great partner for the most part with, you know, kind of memorializing their dedication to move the rail off those tracks permanently in order to basically make sure that their rail goals, which are laudable, can be achieved, but also to help save that beach. You know, they're stabilizing it right now for the next 30 years, you know, in putting in all kinds of pilings and seawalls that are going to have negative impacts on that beach. So I want to bring attention to the Shoreline Preservation Group that right now in the updated NOP, or Notice of Preparation for an Environmental Impact Report, this memorialization of moving that track permanently off the bluffs is being put at risk right now because one of the options being studied for the first time since kind of SANDAG really has promised to move the rail, one of the options being studied is now to keep the tracks on the bluff, to trench into the bluffs and double track it and add another 1.5 miles of seawalls and bluff stabilization. If this were to go forward, this would destroy that beach permanently. You know, about 2 miles of valuable and precious and irreplaceable beach. So the comments for that updated draft EIR are due the end of the month. And I would hope that all the cities and everyone on this group who is here to preserve the beach and in ways that are hopefully even more durable and sustainable than just beach sand replenishment, but actually moving giant infrastructure off the beach to preserve the beach when we have that chance would do so. And, you know, this alternative may not progress past the EIR, and I hope it doesn't, but we'd rather not see it there. And it would be against the Coastal Act, which is what all these projects need to be consistent with. The Coastal Act is very clear that new development, and this would be new development because it's over 1.5 miles of new seawalls and double tracking and trenching. So new development cannot rely on shoreline protective devices. So this would be a uphill battle legally, and for the best, in my opinion, because it would destroy that beach. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Keith, did you have anything to add?
Yes, Mitch, thank you for bringing that up. So we have an NOP out right now, and it's the notice of preparation is we're preparing an EIR. So what's in the EIR, what we'd like comments back on as the alignments we're studying and the resource areas have affected. So if you're interested in that, I think all the board members of the SANDAG board have received the copy of the NOP. Anybody else can go online, sandag.org, and look under low sand rail alignment, and you can read the NOP and provide comments back by June 30th. So thank you very much. This is the start of a very long process for us.
All right, thank you so much. Let's move on to approval of the April 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes. Michael, do we have any public comment on this item?
We have no public comment on consent, Chair.
Any member comments? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
Move approval.
Very good. I'll second that motion. And can we call for the roll?
So can I get the first of who's the maker of that motion? Joyce, thank you. Yes. So this way, rather than roll, if we can say voice votes, that's okay, Chair?
Sure. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Any abstained? The motion passed. Oh, one abstention from Ms. Curran. Thank you. The motion passes with abstention from Ms. Curran. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. All right, let's move on to our reports. Our first report is Shoreline Preservation Working Group Fiscal Year 2026 Working Group, and Courtney Becker will be taking that one.
Thank you. My apologies. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So it's thrilling as it is every single year, I like to propose what our tentative schedule for the next fiscal year will be for this working group and what topics you can expect to see that we will be discussing. So we have four main areas that us as a working group like to discuss, which are beach preservation projects, state of the science updates, shoreline monitoring, as well as policy and adaptation strategies. So on the screen above, you'll see our proposed tentative fiscal year 2026 work plan. We outlined the next 4 meetings from September, December, March, and June. Two main areas I wanted to make sure I made a point to mention was that we at SANDAG are going to be working at updating our current shoreline policy documents as they are fairly outdated. And I believe I mentioned this at our last working group meeting. So we will be providing those updates on where we're at with updating the policy documents at future meetings, as well as working on creating an open data portal for our regional shoreline monitoring program. We have over 28 years worth of shoreline monitoring data that is in a stagnant report. So we will be working on making it into a holistic visualization, open data portal of that data. So that is my updates. And if there's any other topics that you as a group feel that you want to add for a future meeting, please contact me at any point throughout the year and we can provide those updates on the work plan. Thank you.
Chair, I just would like to add a couple of things. So you heard a member of this public talk about the possibility or the desire to buy a dredge on the West Coast. So Mr. Conover had talked about that previously. So our chair of the SANDAG board, Mayor Lisa Huebner, has asked that this group look into that issue. So what's the possibility of creating some cost-effective dredging off the San Diego coastline? And how would that look like? So on September 4th, we're proposing to put together for this group a dredge panel. So panel looking at that exact issue. We're going to invite members from the industry to talk about the types of dredges there are, what types of dredges are needed located offshore versus the which ones are used in the lagoons. We're going to ask the U.S. Army Corps to come and talk about what they currently do on a long-term basis for dredging out some of the large areas up in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. And then we're going to get a consultant who has prepared a lot of the information previously for other areas to come and talk to us about what are the costs and what are the options besides purchasing a dredge. So I just want to highlight that that will be a September 4th meeting for you all. And at that point in time, you know, we can report back to the chair what this group heard and next steps on that. So as you're thinking about your agenda going forward, I just want to kind of highlight that one as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Do we have any public comments on this item?
We do, Chair. We have one public comment by Cesar Javier.
Good. Cesar, you have 2 minutes. Oh.
Microphone.
Sorry.
There you go. Thank
Let's begin. I am blessed with my wife here to be one of the attendees, consistent attendees with SANDAG's vision. We have been monitoring this shoreline many years. And I believe the Navy, the FEMA, federal and the state level have already some kind of findings. And I think that will be the benchmark we suggest where these work plans should have begun or should begin with. Second pointer is, who is the lead agency in this particular undertaking? Let's pinpoint. Is it Mario Orozco or the chair of the board of directors or who? It is very important because of that accountability, responsibility vested upon him or her. We must engrave that. Third is, this calls for engineering, which is the umbrella of science. And oceanography has something to do a lot on this, particularly in the monitoring aspect. I am talking like this because I am a learner. Quite have some acquaintance with civil engineering, hydrography, if I may recall my training. Foot soldier, like our military, you know, the landing in Normandy, it has some impact the same way as we are trying to preserve our shoreline. My bottom line here is we need a lot of things to do.
Thank you, Caesar. Your
Thank
time
you.
has expired, and that concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, and we'll turn to member comments right now. Did we have a member comment?
I just had a minor correction. It's Scripps Institution, because it's run by the inmates. That's how you know.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Oh, one more. Please go ahead.
On the Scripps tour, is that the pier or would it be in the labs? Okay.
We haven't set any of the details quite yet, but I will be working on that and sending it out. Our idea was to do a tour and be able to then host a meeting and have a couple presentations here about what projects Scripps is working on, as well as then doing a tour of the facility.
Very good. All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on then to our next item, Regional Beach Sand Project 3, Phase 1, finalization. Courtney is presenting on the feedback received on the Phase 1 draft feasibility study and economic analysis report and discuss next steps. She's moving to the other side right now.
Way down. Have to buy a Segway. Something to get people down there.
Now I'm on this side of the room. Perfect. Thank you all. Still me, Courtney Becker. So at our last meeting on April 3rd, I went over the preliminary results that we had in our draft Regional Beach Sand Project Phase 1 report. I'm happy to say then after that meeting concluded, I then shared the report for a 45-day comment period amongst the participating coastal cities and a few other interested stakeholders. I'm happy to say we received over 150 comments during that review period. And so today I am going to be going over some prevailing themes of those comments. The comment period ended mid-May. So we are still going through those extensive comments and addressing and revising the document. So I won't be able to address any particular comments that we received today, but just wanted to discuss what were some prevailing themes and similarities amongst those comments. So there were 4 areas that we really see. One is being that there were a few revisions to footprints from some of their coastal cities to better align with shoreline management goals, including the cities, excuse me, the cities of Oceanside and Encinitas to accommodate shoreline management goals as well as other prevailing projects going on like the Army Corps of Engineers project. Another major theme is that there was a big emphasis on Regional Beach Sand Project 3 being a programmatic project rather than a one-off, which was what our previous 2 Regional Beach Sand projects were. Having a programmatic approach, people commented that it would help streamline the environmental processes as well as provide more consistent sand to our beaches. The third main comment is to consider the impacts to lagoons that may occur. We received a lot of comments focused on adding a section on what would the potential impacts be to lagoons if we place that 5.8 million cubic yards of sand in the region. And lastly, there was a request to include the data behind the economic analysis report on the beach attendance, on what helped create the benefit cost ratios that were outlined in the economic analysis. So our next steps after today is we will be continuing to work on addressing those comments and revising the document. We will finalize and I will be distributing the final report this August. And just moving forward, we're going to be continuing to seek funding for our phase 2, which is to focus on environmental clearances in engineering design. So I mentioned at our last meeting that we applied for the state's Division in Boating and Waterways for grant funding for that phase 2, but any and all opportunities for more grant funding, we will be applying to for that. And it concludes it today. Cindy Kincaid on the project team is here with me if there's any particular questions on the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Let me just ask if we have any public comment on this item, Michael?
We do, Chair. We have two. First is Bob Ashton, followed by Cesar Javier.
Well, it's not coming up. Hi, I'm Bob Ashton, President and CEO of Save Oceanside Sand. And my comments are simple. This RBSP3 is long overdue. We have a lot of studies we've done before. We're putting sand in the same spots. Let's try to accelerate the process. The return on investment is immeasurable. We just found there was a great Surfline posted a great article from Bring Back Our Beaches. And the national parks return on investment is a fraction of what our beaches give us, yet they spend billions of dollars on maintaining the national parks. And we spend a fraction of that on our beaches. So it's time we spend more money on our beaches. And we talk about the reduction in federal funding for our state, for our cities, for our counties. If we bring back our beaches, we'll have more money to do with the revenue that generates for all these projects that we're all concerned about losing. So I'd encourage you to accelerate RBSP3, make it a recurring project, and let's put the beaches back for our community because it's the biggest economic driver in our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by Matthew Caulfield online.
Please don't get us wrong here because we are all learners. We need, at least in the presentation, some kind of a drawing of the shoreline so we could visualize what to contribute in our thinking. We are imagining a meeting of the land and the sea water, Pacific Ocean. So would it be nice to see the changing occurrence? You know, we can never defeat nature, but we could only protect us, humans, and our surface we call shell. We asked, let us dig some more. This is our future. And let us also have some kind of volcanologists. Somebody from the members should be presenting about the disturbance underneath this meeting of the land and the seawater. There is ongoing indications. You know that. We feel it. And some other countries nearby experience it. This is part of our subject. If we want to protect, preserve, and herald, the Komeai land and water line. This is our contribution. Let us think. We are here not to disturb you, but to encourage you. I'm 74 and you're only 56 or 18 years old. This is for all of us, the San Diegans. Remember, San Diego is not only for the civilians, but for the brave soldiers. That makes San Diego a very popular one. And the other one that makes San Diego a popular one, the urine smell at our City Hall, Civic Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment, our last comment is by Matthew Caulfield online.
Hi, I'm Matt Caulfield. I'm on the board of Save Oceanside Sand. I commented in your last meeting concerning RBSP 3, the receiver site in Oceanside. I would just take a minute to thank you and your staff for accepting Oceanside's modification to the RBSP 3 receiver site. And a special thank you to your script science advisor, Ron Flick, for his explanation in our last meeting of the recent scientific studies of sand flows in Oceanside, which supported the modification. The footprint of RBSP 3 now includes 2 of Oceanside's most cherished and sand-eroded beaches, Buccaneer and Cassidy, and returns the shoreline to sand-starved residents south of Wisconsin Street. We are mindful of the successful RBSP 1 and 2, and are very much looking forward to similar results with RBSP 3. We very much appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Very good. Thank you so much for those comments. Let's go to our member comments. Anybody have anything? Very good. Mr. Joyce, Deputy Mayor Joyce. No, what do you have? What do you?
Deputy Mayor, whatever.
Okay.
Eric is fine. It's all good. I don't know what's on there. I want to thank staff for their work on this. And I know we have a lot of very active folks in our city. We're lucky to have folks engaged on this topic. And there was a lot of feedback given. And I appreciate the flexibility that SANDAG has shown in working with us to make sure that it best meets our needs, both in the short and long term. I also want to just echo, I saw the second one was about the programmatic approach. We've talked about that for years, about how critical it is to make this not all this effort to be in vain of a future project, but instead to build the momentum of continuing this as an ongoing thing. So I appreciate all the work that's been done on it, and I look forward to seeing the final.
I'll second those comments. All right, very good. That was information only. And let's turn to our last item, identification of regional sand retention pilot project, Beach recommendations. Keith Greer is going to take this item.
It is such a long walk from up there to over here.
You need some exercise.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to be joined by Jamie Timberlake. Jamie is the coastal manager for the city of Oceanside, and she's the project manager for Beach. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is an item for discussion and possible action by this committee. It's an identification of the regional sand retention pilot project and having Beach as the recommendation from SANDAG staff to be that pilot project. So what I'll do in my presentation is go over a little bit of background, what our policy documents say about creating these pilot projects, and some of the history of Beach and how we got here today, and then finally talk about why staff is supporting Beach itself. So with that, I don't know if you recall, but the last meeting you had in April, we kind of did a Shoreline 101. And staff presented to you all of our policy documents that we've had developed over the years, why this committee was formed, and some of the recommendations that came out of those policy documents. So this committee is the longest serving committee at SANDAG. It goes all the way back to the 80s and stems from all that time that we had severe El Niños stripping away the sand from the beaches. Coming from that was a July 1993 document called the SANDAG Shoreline Preservation Strategy. And it envisioned our wide beaches with lots of sand, both for recreation, tourism, and economic viability of the region. And how it envisioned that was a 30 million cubic yard, so 30 million cubic yards being placed on the sand all at once on the beaches, and then annual maintenance of 400,000 cubic yards. So in that regards, it's like any other infrastructure. You build it, and then you maintain it. So the region itself has really kind of fallen short. We've only put about a little over 3 million cubic yards of sand on the beach. And, we have a long way to go. Beach will help addressing that, and programmatic approach will help us do it on a cycle. Coming on the heels of that shoreline preservation strategy, there was a recognition that in some areas, no matter what you do for beach nourishment, the sand doesn't stay on the beach. For a variety of reasons, and some we're still speculating on what those are, but those areas don't hold sand very well. So in 2001, SANDAG developed this regional beach sandline retention strategy. And what the retention strategy did is it looked at the challenges up and down the coast in certain areas and which features, both natural and man-made, retain sand. Why is sand retained in certain areas and not other areas? And it also looked at other structures that could help facilitate the retention of sand with the idea that sand would be, if a structure plus sand would not last a lot longer than placing sand there alone. And these are not uncommon. We've talked about, look up and down the coast, you've got breakwaters with sand forming on the sides of them. You've got jetties, groins, all those contribute to retention of sand, and some things that are more novel like artificial reefs. So in the 2001 beach retention strategy, the staff at that time and the consultants met with all the jurisdictions, and they said, what are your challenges, what are your needs? And they came up with recommendations. And just to focus in on this one recommendation from the city of Oceanside, there was a recommendation to do a pilot scale groin, they called it at the time, project. And that groin project should be temporary, should be removable, should be monitored. And also looking at a possibility of a retention reef, so an offshore reef that would also retain sand. So those are terminology that was used at the time. And of course now, since 2001, we've gotten a lot greener, and I'll kind of talked about what that has changed into over the years. But I wanted to highlight one more policy document. Courtney just presented on the Regional Beach Sand 3 project and the draft report and the comments received. In that draft report, there was a recommendation for the region to identify a location for a pilot project and to have that pilot project implemented so we could see, are there structures moving forward and can we actually retain sand longer from our beach nourishment? So not only on a cycle of putting sand on the beach, but making sure that sand stays longer. So that was a policy recommendation that came out of these documents. Moving forward, so focusing in just Oceanside for a second. Oceanside area does not retain sand. It's participated in both Regional Beach Sand Project 1 in 2001 and 2012. And while it's hard to see in all these graphics and stuff, you can see the images, it's cobble out there. We were just out there last May walking on cobble. No matter what you do up there, it doesn't retain sand. And there's a variety of reasons that I think are still in the science aspect of this. The top left-hand graphic shows that we are now 27 feet below where we normally have been from 2000. 2000 is our baseline year that we measure things against. And so we've placed sand on the beach, but it doesn't retain itself. So what do you do in this area? So the city of Oceanside has come up with something they've called Re-Beach. And Re-Beach consists of two parts, and I'll let Jamie talk about this a little bit more if you have questions about it. But it consists of a artificial headlands that could be made to look natural. And they're calling it a speed bump. That's the outline. But it's basically a feature that can retain sand on one part of it, be a natural type of feature, be a recreational feature, and have some sand moving north and south around the speed bumps. They also have a portion of the project that has an artificial reef offshore, which will then slow down the sand movement as well. So it checks both the boxes that we talked about. It's a groin-like, or in this case, it's an artificial headland that can make it look natural. And it's also looking at the offshore reef or a artificial reef component. So in that regards, it has both aspects of what the recommendations were, stemming all the way back to that 2001 beach policy. There was a walking tour that was made available to all the Shoreline Beach members in May. Thank you very much for the members that went out there and took a tour. The city of Oceanside was gracious enough to host us out there and gave a nice example of not only what the challenges were, but also looked at some of the harbor dredging and what they're doing for the beach nourishment. So coming back now, so why is SANDAG staff recommending Re-Beach? So the criteria we looked at was the same ones that were developed in the policy documents. So it's an area of chronic beach erosion and beach loss. It doesn't appear that that nourishment by bringing sand offshore to the locations of the beach onshore are enough in that area. So we're looking for something more than just beach nourishment in this area. Re-Beach is a nature-based solutions. It is one that you could work with the structure to make it appear natural, to feel natural, to promote the ecosystem around it, both onshore with the headlands and offshore with the artificial reef. And very much equivalent to the city of Encinitas has a dune restoration project, which is an infrastructure project, but on top of it, it's a dune system. So it has a very natural, nature-based feel to it. Something very similar could happen here with Re-Beach. Re-Beach has incorporated a comprehensive monitoring program, both before they build it and after they build it. So they'll have a good opportunity to have an example of trends over time. So it's not just speculation of let's build it and see what happens. It's let's do it before and let's look at afterwards. It's also adjustable and removable. So based upon that monitoring program, if things aren't working out, things can be adjusted. If it's a terrible situation, but if things just don't work out completely, it can be removed. So it's not a permanent thing, but it's also something that can be monitored over time, or what we call adaptive management. The predominant longshore current area is northward. And I know this has been one that's still kind of in this science and hypothesis testing stage. But in this area, based upon some work that Dr. Bill O'Reilly has done in Scripps Institute of Oceanography, the predominant south shore and south swells are pushing the sand northward for the most time, except for big areas of El Niños or atmospheric rivers when you see a strong southward trend. So bottom line, it doesn't affect the city of Carlsbad and downstream from the city of Carlsbad as much as other areas would. So it's a good area for this pilot project to occur. It's also gone rigorous international design competition and robust outreach. And I really kind of applaud the city of Oceanside for doing that. They didn't look at just one solution, they opened it up. And they opened it up to everybody to say, what's the best area out here? And then they had panelists that were experts to kind of evaluate that. So really kudos to you, Jamie, and the Oceanside on that. The final thing, I'll stop talking here, is the timeliness. They are far enough along in the process. They've got a project design selected by their council. They're undergoing right now their permits and environmental analysis. And so within 2 years, they'll be ready to move forward. So they're furthest along, and it makes sense for us to select that as a pilot project. Last thing I want to hit on was something that Mitch Silverstein had brought up. He says, what does it mean to be selected by this project? And so I wanted to address that. So what it means for SANDAG is SANDAG would incorporate Ree Beach as identified as its pilot project in all of our shoreline and planning documents. So Courtney mentioned that we're going to be updating and kind of consolidating our shoreline policies over the next year. So Ree Beach, instead of saying a project, it would define it as Ree Beach as being that project. And I want to mention that this doesn't have to be the last project. This is just the pilot. So if successful, then other cities can also look at their cities and their needs. The second thing is we would collaborate with the city of Oceanside during the environmental clearance project. We'd identify the impacts, the mitigation, how the downstream effects would be, how it would be monitored. So it's a more close coupling with SANDAG and Oceanside. We would also support Oceanside in all their efforts to seek construction funding. And this makes a lot of sense because we're going to be seeking the same funds for Regional Beach Sand Project 3. So that can be a joint operation with us. And then finally, we'll align the timing and schedule as much as possible with Regional Beach Sand 3 project and with Ree Beach. Neither have construction funds, so it's a good opportunity for us to collaborate together. Equally important is what SANDAG would not be responsible for. So we would not be responsible for the funding. We would not be responsible for construction, but we would help and partner and facilitate. So today we ask you to discuss the staff's recommendation to look at Ree Beach as being defined as the pilot project for the San Diego region. If you would like to make an approval or a recommendation, your recommendation would be going to the Regional Planning Committee. Courtney and I will be going in July to the Regional Planning Committee, which is the body you report to give them an update on the Regional Beach Sand 3 project, and we can incorporate your recommendation to them at that point in time. So with that, I turn it back over to the chair for your discussion and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Let's turn to our public comment. Michael, do we have any public comment?
Yeah, we do, Chair. First is Bob Ashton, followed by Charlie Bowen.
Good afternoon, members of the Shoreline Preservation Working Group. I am Bob Ashton, President and CEO of Save Oceanside Sand. We deeply appreciate your forward-thinking leadership in recognizing the merit of Oceanside's Ree Beach initiative. I'd also like to acknowledge the Oceanside Ree Beach team and our extremely capable and talented Coastal Zone Administrator, Jamie Timberlake. Simply put, without her hand firmly on the helm of this project, it would not exist. No other city in California has stepped up with the same level of vision, innovation, and long-term commitment to sustainable shoreline management as Oceanside has. Ree Beach represents more than just a local project, though. It's a regional model. It's a forward-looking, nature-based solution that goes beyond traditional beach nourishment, offering a sustainable way to address one of the most urgent environmental issues we face today, accelerated coastal erosion. As erosion threatens our beaches and our coastal resilience, the time for innovation is now. Rebeach gives us this opportunity to learn, adapt, and scale a solution that can benefit shoreline communities in San Diego County and beyond with a solution that can reduce our reliance on frequent, expensive nourishment efforts and usher in a more resilient future for our coastlines. Save Oceanside Sand offers our strongest endorsement to formally select Rebeach as the regional sand retention pilot project, incorporated into RBSP3 and the upcoming shoreline policy updates in 2026. Thank you for your leadership and your thoughtful consideration of this vital opportunity. We look forward to continuing our partnership in protecting and preserving our coastline for current residents and for generations to come. Thank you.
Next is Charlie Bowen, followed by Cesar Javier.
Good afternoon, working group members. Charlie Bowen, Director of Communications for Save Oceanside Sand. I echo Deputy Mayor Joyce's comments and Matt Caulfield's comments, and thank you for SANDAG for accepting the modifications to the receiver site. SOS fully supports the Rebeach pilot project. Furthermore, we fully support the adoption of Rebeach as the regional pilot project for sand retention, something SANDAG has contemplated as far back as '93 and has recommended since 2001. Ultimately, that recommendation was not part of the previous RBSP 1 or 2 projects, mostly out of the belief that they would not be permitted and approved given the current environment. We see that changing at the current time. The recent Coastal Commission grant for baseline monitoring is that's a very big development, and we think that it begs of a more favorable approval and permitting environment. And such a favorable development has been brought about by the innovative and adaptive components of Rebeach, which is based on science, engineering, and experience, and which is considered a nature-based solution. We can all thank the City of Oceanside and our amazing Coastal Zone Administrator, Jamie Timberlake, for making this project a reality. Also favorable to the permitting and approval of Rebeach is the Coastal Commission's support for implementation and monitoring of artificial reefs to address coastal erosion, and likewise the Ocean Protection Council's California Artificial Reef Program Plan. Additionally, RBSP 3 would no longer be a nourishment-only project. As such, SOS believes it will be easier to secure funding, mostly due to the provisions of state legislation SB 272. As Congressman Levin said last week when commenting on securing additional funding to finish the Army Corps study, we all need to work collaboratively. We have one amazing coast and we all have to work together. I encourage the working group to do so. Thank you.
Next is Cesar Javier, followed by Jim Jaffe online.
Thank you, SANDAG. Preservation, protection in our region, coastal line is our daily bread. The U.S. Navy, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Oceanography, UCSD professionals and experts, thank you for your inputs. We know that you are working. I just don't know what political virus is impeding the speedy, protection and preservation of our shoreline. Imagination. We need something to hold on the foundation of the shore. And probably if we could construct huge, this air wind turbine along the coast, green approach, people could leisure, swim and enjoy nature. Number 2, why can't we unify ourselves that construction should be holistic, meaning, hey, you cannot put up residential there, no more. It should be somewhere on the horizontal direction, somewhere, no longer congesting our shoreline. That's only imagination. And the third imagination is your thoughtful, purposive thinking, your imagination. Thank you, SANDAG.
Next public comment is Jim Jaffe online, followed by Carolyn Kramer.
Hello, Jim Jaffe from the Surfrider Foundation, San Diego County chapter. I am the co-leader of the Beach Preservation Committee, and I've been involved with this chapter for approximately 30 years and comment on many of the SANDAG projects as well. I appreciate all the hard work that this group does. A couple of quick comments. I noticed that this project is being billed as a nature-based project. I think there needs to be some clarity on that, given that two of the key elements to this project are one, an artificial headland, and two, an artificial reef. Secondly, the city of Solana Beach had conducted a previous study on a pilot sand retention project in cooperation with its Army Corps project and some other beach projects they were engaged in. Dick Seymour from Scripps did a peer review of that. And the conclusion of that project was that any artificial reef needed to be emergent, meaning it stuck out from the water in order to accomplish the goal of sand retention. So that needs to be given some clarity. You know, there's probably some people thinking they're going to get an artificial surf break from an artificial reef and all these cool things, but emergent reef is basically a breakwater at the end of the day. So I think we need some clarity to the public on what this project is going to accomplish and what it's going to look like from a 3D perspective. Also, the recent data on the northward transport of the sand, that needs a little more scrutiny from an environmental review process and also from Coast Commission peer review and permitting process, and making sure that that conclusion is 100% bounded in science. Thank you.
Next is Carolyn Kramer, followed by John Conover.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you on this item. My name is Carolyn Kramer, and I'm the chairperson for the Citizens for the Preservation of Parks and Beaches in Oceanside. Why would this committee vote to select Oceanside's Re-Beach project as the regional sand retention pilot project when the study is not yet finished? What exactly are you voting for? All we know so far is that the project is a nature-based solution with no definition as to what nature-based entails in this project. Thank you, Jim Jaffe. You hit on my points. In the private sector, researchers and activists have raised concerns of, quote, greenwashing. This means that companies might overstate the impact of their nature-based activities without ensuring and verifying the true impacts of these actions. It is my understanding that the Re-Beach study is currently in process and still 2 years away. So why would SANDAG or this committee vote for something they still do not know what the study will reveal? What does the sand retention project involve? The Dune project currently underway in Ventura is an awesome description of a nature-based solution. Artificial headland, speed bumps, what is the composition of these? All the photos in the Re-Beach project show it is surrounded with riprap. More hard structures are not nature-based, and we already know the outcome of hard structures. What happens to the beaches in the south of this project? Are the cities of Carlsbad, Del Mar, and Solana Beach willing to approve something that may interrupt the natural flow of sand, which is primarily north to south in the winter and south to north in the summer? Don't be so hasty to approve something you do not know what it entails. Finish the study first. Thank you.
And our last public comment is by John Conover.
The committee, SANDAG, to disassociate itself with Re-Beach because one thing that hasn't been brought up is the cost. I heard for the pilot project, it's going to be upwards of $50 million. That was from Jamie Timberlake at a SANDAG meeting. And I believe that's what it's going to cost, which means the whole city of Oceanside is going to cost $150 million. And all we get from that is a jetty that has a curve to it and some plants and soil and sand put inside the curved area. We don't know what the underwater breakwaters are going to do either to the surf or to the flow of sand from the north to the south, which is a predominant flow of all of San Diego County. And lastly, the idea of calling this nature-based. I mean, you can't solve a man-made problem with a nature-based solution. It's really a whitewashing of what they're going to be doing. Jetties are jetties, whether they have a curve or they're straight. I would like you to look at what Newport Beach did in the late 60s for probably 20 to 25% of the cost of these curved jetties. They don't need to be 600 feet long like the original study proposed. Newports are around 300 feet. And that's probably more than is necessary to create beaches. So I'd like SANDAG to disassociate with Beach and focus back on the whole county and possibly, like we were talking about, getting a dredger. Thank you.
And that concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, let's turn to member comments. Who wants to go first? Mayor Ehlers.
There we go. I think one of our council members, Deputy Mayor Joyce Lyons, was on the evaluation committee, got invited up to Oceanside. And we had several reports on Beach. So I think I understand pretty well what it is. And if that's what Oceanside wants, great. So one of my questions for staff is today, we're not approving it as a project. It's going forward no matter what. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Beach project in the city of Oceanside is going forward. The action today is to see if SANDAG wants to identify it as a pilot project for our policy documents.
Yeah, and so I support doing that only because it's in your city, you want to do it. I think we'll get the data is what we're doing. And it is pretty well known. Personally, I don't see this as nature-based. It is slightly nature-based, and the Shoreline project we did in Cardiff, where it was the dunes, that's got an artificial component to it too. It's maybe a little more nature-based, but I kind of view it as we're trying different things to retain and protect the beaches and do climate resiliency. And so I know the strategy calls for having a pilot program, and I think this is a perfectly appropriate one. You're in charge of the funding. You're in charge of whether or not it goes forward. So I support it.
Very good. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Joyce.
Thank you for outlining the challenges that lay ahead still for the project. And I guess we could kick it to some staff to talk about what nature-based means. I guess my understanding over the years that we've been doing this work is that the system that it's based around is a natural system. That's kind of my understanding. And so it's not necessarily that we're just throwing a bunch of natural trees into the ocean to block sand. It's the system that it's modeled off of. So I think well-meaning people can definitely disagree on the 1 to 10 scale of how nature it is. And we heard some great advocates in Oceanside who disagree too. So I understand, it's no problem. But we're at the end of part of this process, a long deliberative process that was really tried to be a collaborative process. At the beginning, our city took some maybe action a little too quickly, and then we heard from our neighbors and said, "Hey, slow your roll. Like, remember, we're here too." And so we did. We turned around and tried to do a process that was collaborative, that brought in as many of the neighbor cities that wanted to participate in every step of the way. Whether it was evaluating the different teams that were doing the work or what the project looked like or how nature-based it would be. I mean, we really tried to do that in a way to make folks understand that we want to do this in a public, transparent, and collaborative approach. The design is exciting. I would note that it's called Speed Bump it's not stop signs. It's speed bumps because it slows the sand down. It's not intended to stop all of the sand. And so, all of this has been deliberative in a way that we recognize the natural flow of sand is something that we don't want to just stop. We want it to be something that we can pilot as a system that could possibly work for any one of our cities up and down the coast that are facing this problem, which many of us are. The sand will continue to move south. It'll continue to move north. We'll still have to dredge it out of the harbor every year. And just want to go on the record again to say that we really want to build a state-of-the-art science-based system that all of our coastal cities can use. We recognize that the millions of people rely on access to the ocean for their well-being in our region. And this is critical for that to continue to be an accessible resource in the city of Oceanside and for the region in general. Folks hop on the Sprinter all the way out from Escondido to come be at our beaches. So recognizing that, I'd make a motion to move forward this recommendation to the next step in the process. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
I'll go next.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, it's good to see you. I really enjoyed the field trip all the way from Imperial Beach to Oceanside. It was a long haul. I was curious, in the past, when was there ever sand on your beach continuously and not cobble exposed? Was there ever a time?
Well, we have a long history in Oceanside of managing the shoreline. Back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s, we've had projects that have brought sand to the beach because of the interruption with the construction of the harbor and the boat basin. We've had wider beaches when we have these projects that have brought sand to the beach. So disposal projects where sand has been brought up from the construction of a harbor or the implementation of a levee on San Luis Rey River. And all of those efforts have brought more sand to the beach artificially. So there has been periods of boom and bust of Oceanside's beaches since the 40s. So yeah, there are times when there isn't as much cobble, but over the last 10 years specifically, it's been dramatically decreasing to the point where we only have about a third of the shoreline that has any dry sand beach whatsoever throughout the whole year.
So when it was sand present, it was always brought in after the harbor jetty went in? Is that what you're saying?
It's got a long, varied history. So just depends on so many different factors, right? It depends on if we've had disposal projects, if we've had sand nourishment projects from SANDAG, if we've had small opportunistic projects. All of those things have affected our coastline. So, but oftentimes we don't have a lot of dry sandy beach space, and especially, like I said, over the last 10 years.
And then moving forward, when you do start the speed bumps and the reef, does that get built first and then you replenish the sand, and is it brought in by dredging?
So the artificial reef and the two headlands, that's the constructs of the project, but there's also a big sand nourishment element to the project. We need to bring in approximately 900,000 to 1 million cubic yards of sand just to implement the entirety of the project. So all of those elements are the whole pilot project. We can't just add an artificial reef and two headlands without adding sand to the shoreline. Because like I said, the intention is to retain some of the sand that we're placing, not to dramatically interrupt natural processes and natural coastal dynamics.
So which one's first, the sand replenishment and then the speed bumps?
Well, because this project mimics a project that's already been implemented on the Gold Coast of Australia, we'll probably do a similar process as to what they did, which is they brought in sand nourishment ahead of the constructs, and then they built the reef after bringing in sand.
Wonderful. Thank you for all the answers.
Councilmember, I think you also bring up the most important point about why SANDAG would be involved, because as we're moving forward with a major regional beach sand project, which will put sand on the beach. We want to be aware of Oceanside's needs for that sand and dovetail those two together. So making sure the projects fit together is what we're trying to do.
Yes. Member Patel, I think, was
Great, thank you. Thanks for the presentation and the update. I just wanted to share comments on behalf of our city. I know that in the past, folks have heard from us, and based on past decisions that we've made and a resolution that we had adopted, the majority of our council was not in support of this project. So in conjunction with that, I just want to make sure that I continue to maintain that and support the majority council's decision to not support. Mainly it's in regards to making sure that we have more data to show that the project would not impede that natural flow of sediment. We really would need to revisit this as a full council in order to be able to, you know, for me to sit here and say I'm going to go forward with it. So I just want you all to know why I'd be voting no, and really appreciate again the update and continue to hope to hear about all of the data. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Flick.
So the question was asked by the council member about the last time the San Diego coast, this Oceanside in specific, was natural. And Jamie alluded to the 1940s after Pearl Harbor when the Del Mar Boat Basin was built because the Marines realized that they had to do training for eventual island hopping in World War II. And so that caused a disturbance to Oceanside. But the development in San Diego changing the condition of the beaches along the entire coast really started around the turn of the century, the last century, about 1900 or so. Zuniga Jetty was built in the early 1900s. A bunch of groins and other structures were built. Solana Beach was dredged out. Sorry, the name is escaped me now. Fletcher Cove was dredged out. Other structures were built. And the dams, almost all of the dams except the Santa Margarita were dammed early in the century, so that reduced the amount of sand flowing to the coast. So, you know, the human intervention on the San Diego coast goes back at least to the early 1900s and accelerated greatly after World War II. The population of San Diego boomed after World War II. It happened to be in a mild climate cycle where there were relatively few storms for the 30 or 40 years right after World War II. A lot of people settled here. Population boomed, development boomed, especially coastal development. There really weren't any big major storm events until 1978 or 79. And then, of course, the 82, 83 El Nino, 97, 98 El Nino, and everybody realized, oh, we could have very serious flooding and storm events on our coast that eroded the beaches temporarily, at least. And so that also played a factor. So, you know, I'm a scientist. I've done a lot of work on the history of the coast. There's a bunch of publications all over the place. Keith cherry-picked a few of those to show you, but there are literally dozens of other reports that you could refer to. I'm a scientist, like I said, and but I do want to make one philosophical comment here, and that is, once you develop a coastline and interfere with the natural processes, and you have millions of people living and using the coastline for all kinds of purposes, from the railroad that was built in the 1880s, by the way, you really are, in a sense, stuck. You know, getting back to nature in a highly developed urban coastline like ours, especially with future continued and accelerated sea level rise, mucking up the picture even worse, it is, in my view, unrealistic. That's a philosophical, not a scientific conclusion, you know, but it's based on the history of development on our coast, plus the climate cycles, plus the intervention that already exists. So, essentially without going back to, giving the Kumeyaay back the land and all of us immigrants leaving, short of that, you're really stuck with continued intervention of some degree if you want to maintain recreational and all of the benefits that the beaches will never be wide in San Diego in most places. They weren't naturally wide to begin with. I should have mentioned that earlier. Even without intervention, these beaches were never very wide because of the long-term 20 million year, 5 million year history of the tectonic location where we are compared to the East Coast. It's always been a sand-starved system. The climate is not conducive to bringing large amount of sand even without the dams. So, with all of that background, I think the really only option that we have, living on this coast with the population that we have and the recreational needs and commercial needs and all the other needs, you're really stuck with some level of continued intervention.
Thank you. Go ahead. Commissioner Stewarts.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the report. I really appreciate it. The one thing that really strikes me is that I have, looked at artificial reefs extensively, and I know that NOAA has done great work with artificial reefs, to even be able to tell you that there's 36 the artificial reefs in the continental United States around the amount is actually 3,600 football fields. That's the equivalent of the artificial reefs in the ocean. And the thing that's interesting to me about that is often it's just put into the ocean as garbage. They're trying to put this in, make it something. In this case, I feel like what we're really trying to do is save our beaches, save our coastline. And so I know that Surfrider has a pretty hard line on armoring, but I feel like this is a really nice compromise. It's a little bit of armoring in order to keep the beach and the reef out in the water. I'm really excited to hear about what you're going to do with the material. I think this is a great opportunity to look at some fisheries, bringing back some biological, all of fisheries and different species that we really need to bring back. We're just been literally ripped away. And so I think that this nature-based solution can become more nature-based by the material that's chosen for this. I feel when I went, I really appreciated the tour. I was very impressed by the study and what's happening and the amount of work that has been done on this. And coming from Coronado, our beaches were narrow, as you know, to begin with, and then our beaches became very wide at one point because of the dredging in San Diego Bay, which made these huge beaches. But if you look at our beach, particularly on South Bay, we're losing beach faster than just about any beach in Southern California. This is something that I'm very excited to see. I'm really excited about a pilot project, and I think we all should be excited about a pilot project that we can kind of get behind. And knowing that the project on the Gold Coast has been very successful. I think that we should all embrace it and look at it as a pilot program, realize it's a bit of a compromise between armoring, and I appreciate Professor Flick's analysis that, it's unrealistic. We are developed. And so I would absolutely support staff's recommendation to select Beach as a regional sand retention pilot program. I think it's a great project. So much work has been put into it, and I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn out.
Would that be a second to the motion?
That is absolutely a second to the motion.
Very good. All right, Member Karan, who? I thought you had your hand up. Sorry. Go ahead, Member Smith. I can't see your.
I just had a quick comment on the idea of a pilot project with RBSP. I think it's a good idea. I think it should be expanded. If we're going to make RBSP a programmatic process, I think there should almost be a pilot project followed by a work plan that integrates all the other places that are going to need sand, living shorelines, the lagoon management, all that sort of stuff. Is how do we integrate all these projects together, because they all have regional effects. So I think some kind of work plan with projects that need sand or need to give up sand, something like that would be really effective.
Thank you. Member Silverstein.
All eyes on Rebeach, huh? Appreciate the lively debate here. Agree with, just a lot of great observations. I'm not a voting member, obviously. I don't have a dog in this fight of whether you vote to do this or not. I see pros and cons. But I do have a sticking point that several of, public commenters mentioned, this idea that's in the staff report, and I'll quote it: "The project's location predominantly experiences northerly sand movement away from downshore cities based on data from Dr. William O'Reilly from Scripps Institution." I find that claim to be dubious at best, and at the far worst, it would be politically motivated. It may not be true. If it is, I believe it leaves out important context, and I believe it ultimately needs to be studied further before a claim like that is put on the staff report that y'all are voting to approve. It's a claim that relies on data from one scientist. At least 5 studies since the 60s have concluded that net longshore transport of sand goes to the south in this littoral cell in the vicinity of 100 to 250 cubic yards annually. 240,000 cubic yards of net sand transport to the south is, I quote, "believed to be a reasonable best value for long-term littoral drift," from a study produced for GHD, part of the Rebeach team in 2023. I understand that this is based on the larger Oceanside littoral cell and not just that slice where the project is, but we do need to think about this regionally. The Rebeach team and many others, almost pretty much any salty surfer in Oceanside or North County knows this, that there's kind of this predominant loss of sand or net flow to the south during the winter, and then kind of it switches direction in the summer. So we know it goes both ways. I think, if we're going to make this claim that in the area of Rebeach, there's a net transport to the north, there's a lot of context there that needs to be looked at, and whether that would occur under natural conditions. For example, there's an annual harbor dredge that places 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the year, several 100,000 cubic yards of sand on Oceanside's beach in that area in the spring, right before summer, when we know the predominant sand direction is back to the north. So if the studies are saying that in that area, it's a net transport to the north, well, we need to look at, because basically they're placing all the sand there right before the sand starts going north. So I just think there's a lot of context left out here. There's more studies that need to be really gelled together before SANDAG can make this claim that, this is not going to affect cities to the south because net transport in this area is to the north. To make that claim now, to me, that could play into a notion that SANDAG is creating a false impression that this project won't affect beaches to the south. So I wouldn't advise voting on that at the time until that's either taken out of the staff report or it's looked into more, because I wouldn't want to see trust eroded in this group. Thanks.
Can I respond to that just briefly? I have a high regard for Mitch and Surfrider in general, and I would just say that since Bill's not here to defend his study, that he and everybody else who has studied this coast for a long time were as surprised as anybody, shocked even that the wave information that's been made available since 2000. So the study only started that Mitch is referring to with northward net transport and Oceanside cell, the Oceanside subcell. From 2000 to the present time, the net transport changes, but it is predominantly to the north. And, we were as shocked and Bill was as shocked as everybody else.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, if we accept this pilot project, is that going to be the cookie cutter for all the beach towns? Or if it's not right for our beach towns, can we opt out of it?
It's not a cookie cutter. This is a unique situation for Oceanside, but the process could be mimicked. And so I think that's the important part here. In the 2001 sand retention strategy, it looked at each city, and each city had a different need and therefore a different solution.
Exactly. So that's what it would be on the need of the city itself. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Yes, Ms. Mayor.
To staff, thank you. But the question is there, what's the backup? If this is recommended as a pilot, is there another pilot that's in the works that could substitute?
Currently, there's no one as far along as this one. Darren, if you want to talk about your project down in there in Torrey Pines, that's probably the next one in the hopper, but you guys are just in the grant stage, but please.
Yeah, same thing. We're a little behind. We have a living shoreline project going on at Torrey Pines, a managed retreat project with the parking lot, a couple other things in the works, but they're not quite to the permitting stage yet.
So to answer your question, there is nothing else there right now.
All right, I think that concludes all the comments. Oh, one more. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, staff, for the very robust presentation, and thank you for everybody's input. I do think this is although National City doesn't face this particular issue, I understand it's a very critical issue for many cities. And I would challenge all of us to make sure that all these issues that coastal cities and cities that have this particular problem eventually get addressed. And I understand that there's a very steep cost to it, but it is critical that we look at our entire coastline for what it is, which is an economic engine for our entire region. And so thank you so much for doing the legwork and getting this to this point. I very much look forward to support it and also support neighboring cities that also need these issues addressed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. I will, one more comment.
Sorry. I just want to say I appreciate the comments from everyone on this, and the comments that were brought up by Mitch. If staff wants to look at making context more present in the statement to make sure that the understanding is fully communicated, then I would support that as well moving forward.
I'm sorry, was that a motion to continue this item or?
No, I think they could be done between bringing it to the next committee. So I would not change the motion.
Okay. I have to say too that Solana Beach did oppose the original project, and I'm assuming that this is different than that as well. And I just think that I can support staff recommendations. I think this is a good way to monitor and have our committee be updated on this, and just a learning experience. So I think I can be in support of the motion. So we'll have to do a roll call on this motion. So we have a motion and a second. Let's call the roll.
City of Carlsbad?
No.
City of Chula Vista is absent. City of Coronado?
Yes.
City of Imperial Beach?
I guess, yes.
City of Encinitas?
Yes.
City of Del Mar is absent. City of National City?
Aye.
City of Oceanside?
Yes.
City of San Diego is absent. City of Solana Beach?
Yes.
County of San Diego is absent. Port of San Diego?
Yes.
And U.S. Navy.
Abstain.
And the motion passes, Chair.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I just wanted to make one announcement, if I could. I wanted to announce that the City of Solana Beach and the City of Encinitas have received the American Shore and Beach Preservation Association 2025 Best Restored Beach Award. It was a highly competitive process. Only 4 beaches selected nationwide. You know a little bit about the project, but it was in the planning stages for 23 years. Sand was placed on our beaches January 2024, and it was completed March 2024. And it will be repeated every 10 years for 50 years. The Army Corps is conducting monitoring right now for the effects on surfing, water quality, biological resources, lagoons, shoreline changes, overall project performance, and that should be finalized in May of 2026. So we look forward to that, but we're really proud of that award. And thank you to Encinitas as well.
And I think it's every 5 years in Encinitas. I think the program is that correct? Yeah.
I guess we don't need as much.
Well, it all flows south to, yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Our next meeting is, why do I not have that in front of me? Thursday, September 4th, 2025. Thank you all for coming down.